Did you hear
Was that?
a
Yeah,
voice?
yes, I heard that sounded like it was right below her.
Just with it, dude, these walls are so old. And somewhere buried in here oh!
If we take a walk around here, we'll see hers. It's marked by the red ribbon. So we're not sure, but we think this might be the swing. It's just that the ribbon has lost its color.
Oh, wait, are you kidding me?
No, did what?
Oh, no, we gotta go. We gotta go.
Did
We
what?
gotta go.
I don't want to be.
No, we gotta fucking go. We gotta go.
On February 25th, 2022, Tara of Tara Treks reflected on her miles along the Appalachian Trail, where shelters, built to promise safety, often carried another weight. Her channel normally honors through hiking and the rhythm of long journeys, but tonight she revisited the moments when those wooden walls felt uncertain and trusting them became far more complicated.
Today, I'm going to be telling you guys why you should not be sleeping in shelters on the Appalachian Trail. I'm not here to bash anyone for choosing to stay in a shelter, and I do recognize there are a lot of benefits to actually staying in one. A shelter offers a quick setup and breakdown of sleeping materials, so that means more time on trail and less time at camp. A safe haven from the elements that can include lightning, downpours, really intense wind, or falling trees and branches. One of the top benefits, in my opinion, is that you meet people a lot easier. Every structure is built differently in a different area of the trail with different people who maintain it. I do believe the cons of staying in a shelter heavily outweigh the pros. I'm going to separate the reasons into two categories. We're going to have people, and we're going to have animals or other living things. Walking up to a shelter, you never really know who's going to be staying in it or who's going to come up a little later. If you are a thru hiker, you do have a good idea based on who is hiking around you. Weekend warriors, Boy Scout groups, section hikers, or guys who are a little down on their luck. This means you will be sleeping among strangers, and in my opinion, that makes me feel very vulnerable. Before I committed to a shelter, I'd usually screen those that I didn't know. Obviously, I would do this in a non-weird or conspicuous way, just ask like a couple questions about their life and their plans of their hike or backpacking trip. There was one time though that asking a couple questions helped us determine that we were not going to be staying in a shelter. In 2019, James Jordan killed Ronald S. Sanchez Jr. at a campsite on the Appalachian Trail. Around 2 weeks prior to that incident, we did meet James Jordan at a shelter. After spending 15 minutes of talking with Jordan, we found him to be very mentally unstable. We decided that we would pack up our things and move along down the trail, even though it was hailing and raining. On a lighter note though, you may meet some seemingly nice people who might snore really loud, might have a really noisy sleeping pad, or who might get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And you have a couple people turning and tossing in their sleep on their stuff. Some backpackers on the Appalachian Trail wake up early, or some come to a shelter a little later, which, again, can wake some people up. You also have to worry about a silent virus that is being passed among hikers that haven't washed themselves in days.
She opened with the night her group encountered James Jordan at a shelter, only weeks before he would later take the life of hiker Ronald Sanchez Jr. They talked with him for 15 uneasy minutes, long enough to realize something was off. That quiet warning drove them back into the hailstorm, choosing their tents instead of staying beside a man whose behavior felt unstable.
During my thru hike, we got caught in a freezing rainstorm in the Smoky Mountains. Luckily, we found a shelter and there was a couple people in there. By the end of the evening, we were pushing the limits of the shelter's capacity. When we left the shelter the next morning, we were fine, but as the following days progressed, one by one in our tramway, we were getting sick from a common hiker virus called norovirus. Norovirus causes inflammation of the intestines and stomach, which results in vomiting and intense diarrhea. Most everyone in our tramway got norovirus except for Smiley, who is a strict tent camper and did not stay in the shelter that night. Lastly, with a shelter and people is you don't get a lot of privacy, but you can kind of expect that when you're in the shared community space. So that's not a huge one.
It was the first sign that a roof doesn't always bring comfort. Another memory came from the Smokies, when freezing rain forced hikers into a crowded shelter. Dozens waited out the storm together, unaware of what was moving in the cramped space. By morning, nearly everyone who slept inside was hit with norovirus, except for the lone hiker who had stayed in a tent outside. Sometimes the danger is silent, appearing only after the night has passed.
All right, let's move on to the next category, being any other living thing like animals, reptiles, bugs, rodents, or problem bears that live near shelters because they know people will be staying there and there's going to be an amount of food there. We typically try to steer clear of those shelters, but even if you tent camp around the shelter, you're still gonna have those bear issues. So it's not so much a shelter problem. The real problem creatures are not big bears, but instead small mice and rats that live in and around the shelters. Even if you do everything right, like hang your food up in a tree or put it in a bear vault, take every small little crumb out of your pack and put all your smelly things in that bear bag hanging in a tree, they're still gonna bother you. One time during a section hike, a mother mouse and her babies decided my friend's bag, which was hanging, decided that would be a great nesting place for her and her babies. I once heard this horror story. A hiker was about to go to bed, so they put on chapstick, woke up, and a mouse was chewing on her lips. It's so gross. Mice and rats also carry a lot of diseases, and their poop can dry up, becoming dust. That's a really easy way for viruses or diseases to spread in the air. Snakes, spiders, and bugs were a minor issue in shelters.
Then came the nights shaped by wildlife. At Old Orchard, a bear circled for hours despite food being stored properly. Mice chewed through packs, nested in hanging bags, and seemed to rule the shelters after dark. She recalled hearing of a hiker who applied lip balm only to wake with mice drawn to it. These moments built her belief. Shelters offered convenience, but the cost often felt too high. Crowded shelters mix unpredictable people, illness, and wildlife, creating risks that comfort and convenience can't fully outweigh. When the trail grows quiet at night, would you trust a shelter's walls or your own instincts to keep you safe? On September 22, 2025, Dawson Tuller stepped into the abandoned town of Elkmont, buried deep within the Appalachian Mountains. His YouTube channel follows real paranormal investigations, carried out with steady focus rather than showmanship. Accompanied by Michael, he returned to the cemetery, the cabins, and the traces of history left behind after the town was cleared out decades earlier. Nothing out of the ordinary had taken place yet, but both of them felt the kind of heavy stillness that often comes before something no one can anticipate.
So inside of this cemetery is Levi Trentham himself. Levi Trentham was known as a prophet, and in Elkmont itself, one of the buildings was his cabin, which I find that super interesting. So we're coming up to his grave to leave a couple offerings. That way tonight, potentially, he will want to have a conversation with us. So right here is Levi Trentham's grave. We're supposed to leave nails on his grave as a sign of respect to hope that he will communicate with us tonight. So I'll leave it right here. So Levi, if you would be willing, tonight we're coming back up here and we're going to try to communicate with you. We would love to hear your story. We'd love to hear a prophecy that you have. We appreciate your time and you allowing us to be here tonight.
They started at the cemetery, where Dawson approached the grave of Levi Trentham, a man once known as the town's quiet visionary. He set nails and screws on the headstone, a symbolic act meant to recognize Levi and invite his presence later that night. Dawson made a brief request, asking Levi to appear at the cabin they planned to visit. It was a simple, almost respectful gesture, yet the air suggested the evening would not remain calm for long.
For this investigation, we're gonna run the Ovilus. We'll set up a REM pod right here on the fireplace, might be a good spot for it. So that right there is calibration. So we got the Ovilus running, we're gonna throw it in dictionary mode. Levi, if you're here in front of your doorway, I have a music box. All you have to do is step in front of it and it'll go off indicating that you're here. Here on top of your fireplace, I have a REM pod, and if you walk up to it, this little black wire, and you touch it, it'll flash blue. Levi, if you're here, could you give us a knock or some sort of indication that you're here? What is that?
I hear that too, like a knocking sound. Yeah, that was very loud. Actually makes me think maybe there's somebody.
Hold on. Guys, we're being quiet right now because we're trying to sniff out if we can see any sort of light, and I don't. Hello? Could you do that again, please?
If that is you, please speak to us. Is that you?
No. Did you hear
Was
a
that? Yeah,
voice?
yes, I heard that sounded like it was right below our feet.
It sounded like a voice, a man's voice.
Okay, I heard it just a loud dun.
Did you hear?
Was that? Yeah, yes, I heard that sounded like it was right below our feet.
Did you hear?
Was that? Yeah, yeah.
Did you hear?
Was that? Yeah, yes, I heard that.
Levi?
Stab.
Good timing.
Kim.
What was the second one?
Kim.
I don't think those noises we heard, if you were speaking to us through that device, and you intentionally,
Place.
whoa, said place,
Place.
did you mean to say stab?
Lot.
Lot. Stabbed a lot.
Maybe.
Drag.
Couch. Traverse. Row.
It's weird that it's starting to say a bunch of stuff now. It didn't say anything for like 5 minutes.
Channeling. Already.
Channeling already? It's an interesting 2 words to come out like right after the way, and are you here with us? It's like, I'm channeling already.
Inside Levi's former cabin, they positioned their equipment with practiced ease. A REM pod on the fireplace, a music box near the doorway, and the Ovilus running beside them. A knock sounded only moments after Dawson asked for a sign, followed by a noise that resembled a man's voice coming from beneath the floor. The Ovilus then produced a series of terms such as stab, place, and channeling, each delivered without emotion but altering the room in a way neither of them could ignore. Their responses stayed measured, though their expressions hinted they knew the night was moving somewhere unexpected.
Let's head into this dollhouse. My name is Dawson.
My name is Michael.
We're just here to communicate. We're not here to scare you. We're not here to interrupt your playtime. Is there anything you would like to play with?
Cards. After.
Possibly cards after?
Soldier.
Soldier. Did you fight in any sort of war?
Casket. Appetite.
Did we encounter any sort of a casket while we were...
Not a casket.
I think we experienced, death masks and stuff.
At the dollhouse, the device shifted again, producing a new set of terms including cards, soldier, and Joe. Then, without warning, the tone darkened to follow: casket and appetite. Dawson thought back to an earlier visit to a crime museum and wondered if something had attached itself to them. The words came without explanation, yet the sense of unease grew stronger. Neither of them said it aloud, but both felt they were no longer alone as the investigation quietly wound down. Viewers later pointed out how the responses matched pieces of Elkmont's past, raising questions about whether the messages were coincidence or echoes of former lives. If so many people felt something disturbing in the Appalachians, what else might emerge if Dawson ever returns to that deserted town? On October 11, 2025, Manaswi traveled through the Appalachian Mountains, a region shaped by folklore and long-forgotten tragedies. His channel mixes humor with cinematic exploration, visiting unusual places without staged scares or exaggerated drama. This time, he followed a route through 10 locations said to hold more history than hauntings. The trip was never meant to be frightening, yet every stop carried a quiet gravity that suggested the mountains still remember more than they show.
We're back in West Virginia, not for the Mothman, but for the abandoned and haunted Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. A lot of terrible things have happened here. And so all the bad things started happening specifically in the 1950s when a little girl really tragically died on the swing ride. It was kind of strange. She didn't die directly from the swings. A truck just backed into her as she was in her seat. And then a second death happened. It was a little boy who died in the lake here when his arm got stuck in a drain pipe. This is actually the second and third children's deaths in a row.
Yeah, dude.
At Lake Shawnee, he entered only after leaving a small offering, a tradition linked to the site's uneasy past.
All right, I'll tell you, come on.
I actually want to know.
Yeah, I got you, let's go. So this is the swings where that girl tragically died. It's equally creepy, but also kind of sweet how a lot of people leave these dolls and like toys for her. But pretty much a lot of people report hearing her or seeing her specific swing still swinging as if she's still around here. If we take a walk around here, we'll see hers. It's marked by the red ribbon. So we're not sure, but we think this might be the swing. It's just that the ribbon has lost its color over time. The darkest and most terrifying thing about this place is that they actually built the amusement park on top of a Native American burial site. A tribe called the Shawnee tribe used to live here, and archaeologists that have dug around this area have found over 300 burials. Yeah, here, where we're standing.
Bruh.
But what's super crazy is that before the amusement park was built, there were a couple English settlers that lived here. They kind of took this place from the natives and stuff. The Shawnee tribe came and killed 2 of their children, kidnapped another one, and burned his like 8-year-old son at a stake. So there's like multiple levels of death on these grounds.
He recalled the accounts of a young girl killed in a swing accident, a boy who drowned nearby, and the hundreds of Native American graves found beneath the park. The location carried its history without spectacle, and the silence felt heavier than expected. It was the kind of quiet that stays with you long after you leave.
All right, we're rolling up to the next location, which is called Poinsett Bridge, and it is terrifying.
Let me give you some history about this place. Pretty much, it's one of the oldest bridges in the entire country. It was built all the way back in 1820. Poinsett Bridge. When it was being built, all the workers there caught a strange, mysterious disease. Some people think it was malaria, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people died while this thing was being built. Here's the crazy part, okay? Legend has it that one of the workers that died from the mysterious illness, his body was buried within the walls of this bridge itself, and it's still there to this day. A lot of visitors who come here at night report hearing screams, seeing figures. Some people even fall ill. The thing about this bridge is that a lot of people report strange activity when 2 things occur. Right after it rains, which you can see from the ground, it's literally still wet, and when it's midnight.
Dude, come on.
That was close. Hold on, give it a second. At midnight, there are reports of people seeing on this bridge a headless man.
Something I forgot to mention is that sometimes people don't just hear or see a presence, but they actually feel a physical touch.
Just with it, dude, these walls are so old. And somewhere buried in here oh!
What's just gonna happen?
You did that! Are you kidding me?
No, did what?
Oh no,
we gotta go. We gotta go.
Did
We
what?
gotta go. We gotta
I
go.
don't want to be
No, we gotta fucking go. We gotta go.
My tripod leg came loose. And usually it's this short. It opened and it came out here and it touched the back of my leg. You were like wrapping your hand around my leg.
No, I thought you were playing a bit because but then the look in your eyes was actually
When we were under the bridge, there's nothing around us that could touch me but you.
yeah, because if there was like trees or something.
Yeah, if there was like trees, I'd be like, okay.
Later, at Poinsett Bridge, he revisited the stories of workers who died during its construction and rumors of a headless figure seen after dark. While filming, his tripod suddenly shifted and struck his leg, catching him off guard in a moment too fast to explain. He brushed it off with humor, but the incident lingered without a clear answer. Some moments don't show their meaning until much later, if they ever do.
It's time to hit the final location, the not just ghostly, but demonic Popelick Bridge. Home. Sightings of a demonic half-goat, half-man entity have been reported since at least the 1960s. There are a few tales about its emergence, The first is that it's the spirit of a circus freak who seeks vengeance after being mistreated.
The most infamous story about this place, though, is that it once used to be a local farmer who sacrificed his goats in rituals in return for satanic power.
What's very real are the many, many deaths that have occurred on this bridge. What often happens is people looking for the creature end up getting hit by the train that crosses this very bridge.
On the tracks, it goes out into just an endless abyss. It's really creepy.
I prepared to summon the demon the only way I knew how.
Goatman! I'm here! I am right here, all by myself. Last chance to prove the Appalachians are actually haunted.
Last night, I was lucky to be safe as the train that crosses Public Bridge appears from the black of night surprisingly quick. Many people that walk across the bridge don't end up so lucky, and those that come here looking for the Goatman do meet their end, but not from finding the demon, but from their very search for him.
At Pope Lick, he went alone, standing beneath the tall trestle tied to the legend of the Goatman. He repeated the stories of people being drawn toward the tracks, though he remained below, aware of the real danger of passing trains. When one thundered overhead, the force cut through the stillness, ending the night with a reminder that not every threat is paranormal. He left thinking about the beauty, the weight, and the strange pull of these mountains. Viewers pointed out how Appalachia's past shapes its atmosphere, suggesting the unease comes less from legends and more from what is left unsaid. If these places feel this heavy in daylight, what might they hold for anyone who returns after darkness falls? Late in the fall, Sam from the YouTube channel, Camping with Sam Bananas, arrives at Woodlawn Cemetery in Toledo, Ohio. His channel centers on camping and quiet outdoor exploration. Established in 1876, Woodlawn is one of the city's oldest cemeteries, holding more than 65,000 graves. Locals claim it is haunted. That night, Sam plans to stay there anyway.
As for the paranormal activity reported in this cemetery, there are countless sightings of a woman in white. Most accounts say that she wanders near the gates. Other accounts have said that she wanders throughout the gravestones. Still other accounts say that she spends time here at the Gunkel Memorial.
Currently under renovation, this memorial is a testament to the Gunkel family. John Gunkel was a mentor to many civic leaders in the Toledo area. He also helped establish the charitable organization known as the Old Newsboys Goodfellow Association.
Legend has it that she lost her daughter in a gruesome fashion and wanders the cemetery looking for her. Now, as far as I can tell, there really isn't a good way to camp near the gates. That's where most of the sightings of this ghostly woman have been reported. So I'm going to plant myself right over there next to the Gunkel Museum, directly in the spot where there have been some reports that she wanders the cemetery. Now, I am aware that some people may have a bit of a disagreement with camping out in the cemetery, and I understand why you would feel that way. I have a little bit of a different perspective. I would say that if you're someone who believes that there's an afterlife and that there is some sort of a presence here from those that have passed on, don't you think they'd like some company? I think if I was buried in one of these sites and someone came to spend the night and spend time with me, I'd probably be kind of happy about it.
Sam begins by walking through Woodlawn Cemetery, explaining that it serves not only as a burial site, but also as a public park for walking, biking, and scenic drives. Beneath its calm appearance rests more than a century of history. He stops at the Spitzer family mausoleum, describing their role as prominent bankers who helped shape Toledo's financial world.
I'm aware that members of the Titke family are buried in this cemetery. However, so far, this is the only grave where I can find them at. Titke's was, by all accounts, quite an epic grocery store and kind of just a spectacle of a department store. Now, the very, very early days of the Titke store actually started in 1894. But in terms of the modern shop and what it would become, that happened around 1910. That is when they moved on to Summit Street downtown. Their business was on the corner of Summit Street and the northeast corner of Adams, where it would stay for the next 6 decades. While their core business was food, they leased the upper floors of the building to sell furniture, housewares, clothing, and shoes. The brothers Titke also added a bakery, a deli, and restaurants. The concept was ahead of its time, a forerunner of what would be deemed one-stop shopping. Titke's closed for good in 1972. According to the information that I can find, this is the burial site of John, who is one of the heirs of the original family.
Nearby, Sam crosses a restricted bridge over Silver Lake, carefully avoiding the barriers meant to block vehicle access. Moving farther in, Sam locates the grave of John Titke, an heir to the Titke family business that once ran a large, modern-style grocery store in Toledo. As night draws closer, Sam turns to the cemetery's best-known legend, the Lady in White. Stories say she appears near the gates and around the Gungle Memorial, searching for her lost child. Sam decides to pitch his tent near that location. After dark, he keeps his voice low, aware of security vehicles patrolling the area. He prepares a simple meal as distant headlights pass, and deer move through the leaves, keeping the tension high.
I am super whooped. I'm ready to hit the hay here. Anything crazy happens, I'll definitely let you know. Otherwise, we're going to be back at 'em bright and early, trying to get out of here before the sun comes up. Good night, everybody.
Just a little bit later in the day than I wanted to get up, but I think we'll be okay.
I'd like to have things be as fair as possible. There is an exit of the cemetery right here, right by where I was, and you can exit through this park, and I can get to the road out this way. But I think maybe it's a good idea to try to see if we can leave the same way we came in.
Later, Sam steps out with a headlamp. The mausoleums feel heavy in the darkness, and he describes a strong sense of being watched. Despite the unease, nothing unusual happens. As freezing temperatures set in, Sam packs up before sunrise and quietly leaves the cemetery on his electric bike. No obvious paranormal event occurs. The isolation, darkness, unfamiliar sounds, and fear of being noticed may explain why the night feels so disturbing. If nothing appears, but the fear feels real, does that mean the experience was harmless or something else entirely? In early December, Luke from the Outdoor Gear Review hikes to the top of a wind-exposed mountain for a solo overnight camp. What feels calm at lower elevation becomes harsh higher up. Strong gusts, falling temperatures, and a storm expected to arrive after dark. With daylight running out, he prepares a minimal shelter, knowing the night will put it to the test. At the summit, wind cuts through the trees. Luke sets up a hybrid half-lean-to tarp, angled to block the gusts and ready to convert once rain moves in. He explains his 70-liter backpack, describing how careful gear selection and volume control let him carry more than most people expect. Before nightfall, he clears the ground with a makeshift forest rake, removing leaves to lower the risk of ticks and spiders. As darkness settles, he cooks dinner, enjoying reindeer stew while sharing a few stories. One about a strange complaint email, another about an abandoned campsite in New Hampshire where equipment was left behind, but no camper was found.
The other day, I received an email from a viewer asking me if I had seen this channel, and I don't remember the name of it. I wouldn't even mention it if I did. It's so stupid. But the YouTube channel is all about like this person going camping or something. Every single trip ends with the tent catching on fire and everything inside of it being destroyed, and he acts like it was an accident sort of thing. That is like low-level content. It's pretty wild what people will do for money. Not that there's anything wrong with it outside of it just being wasteful, possibly stupid, but years ago, YouTube used to be a wasteland. Anything went. I don't know if that's the case anymore. I don't think so. But people would do all sorts of weird stuff, like eat out of their cat's litter box, if you know what I'm saying. Seriously. I'm pretty sure that's been put a stop to, for good reason. Unfortunately, the winds are beginning to pick back up again, so I will not be feeding this fire anymore. I certainly don't want a hot ember to fly off into the woods, start a fire and whatnot. The ground underneath is wet, but everything on top is very dry, so we better be careful, especially when there's a known fire burning out there. Speaking of which, I took a look. I can't see anything burning. but I definitely saw the smoke earlier. That smoke created one of the most beautiful sunsets I have ever seen. Absolutely incredible.
Around 9:30 p.m., the storm arrives. Rain falls steadily, wind rises, and the forest grows quiet under the weather. Morning breaks under heavy fog. The shelter held. Everything is dry. While packing up, Luke notices movement. A forest mouse is chewed into his food bag, attracted by a small mistake made the night before. Nothing dramatic happens, but the trip shows how small oversights can matter. In wind, rain, and isolation, even the scent of food becomes an invitation. If the storm had lasted longer, or if the shelter had failed, what would have mattered more? The gear, or the choices made before dark? Late August, 2024. This video comes from Kenny of All Trades, a YouTube channel centered on solo camping, RV life, and quiet weekends outdoors. Kenny returns to Pillsbury State Forest in central Minnesota, more than 25,000 acres of public land, with his dog Toby. A few weeks earlier, Toby had suddenly stopped on a forest road here, spooked by something that never appeared on camera. Tonight, Kenny decides to come back anyway. The sun is dropping, and the forest feels different this time.
I spent a couple hours this afternoon inside the camper working on the video, turned the air conditioner on, nice and cool. But Toby and I are gonna go out for a little walk now. Hopefully we can find some firewood. That's the plan anyways. I did bring a leash with, just in case if we come across anybody on horseback out here. You can see a number of horse tracks. This forest has a lot of rolling hills. If you can get up on top of the hill, then the wind is keeping all of the mosquitoes away. The hard problem is when you get down into the dips and the bugs get thick.
After work, Kenny picks up supplies and fire starters, knowing he will be arriving late. By the time he reaches the forest, darkness is already settling in. He sets up camp on higher ground, what was once an open overlook, but is now overgrown. Instead of a view, he finds trash, including a recent Walgreens receipt suggesting someone had been there not long ago. Later, Kenny and Toby go for a walk and follow a narrow trail. It leads to a squatter camp. Blankets, an old shovel, and scattered belongings left behind. A bottle with an August 2024 expiration date stands out. Kenny explains that because the forest sits close to town, people sometimes stay there through the summer after losing housing.
There wasn't much I could do at the time. I picked up as much as I could. I went back out there a few months ago, found that the whole thing is closed off to the public now. It's so sad. I came across a trail that's got to be relatively new. It wasn't here a couple of years ago. Figured we'd go figure out where it goes.
The area feels heavy and neglected. Kenny decides not to go any farther. That night, he makes beef stew over the fire and settles into routine. The forest remains quiet. Before leaving the next day, Kenny returns to the spot where Toby had refused to walk. It has been disturbed again. Some viewers see this as the reality of public land near towns. Others focus on how Toby reacted long before anything could be seen. Either way, the signs point to something ongoing, not abandoned. Weeks earlier, Toby would not go down this trail. This time, the reason was obvious. The forest hadn't changed. What people left behind had. That's it for tonight. Which moment creeped you out the most? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story? Share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.